All right, Clint from the doorway too, hanging out with the guys from Diesel Theory. Thank you, Andrew and Tom, for doing this very much. Really do appreciate it. Your record was kind of a shock. It just came to me out of the blue. Uh, Against PR sends me a ton of stuff, and I just randomly took a chance on it and kind of fell in love with it. So I really do appreciate you guys talking to me. Uh, so I guess the first thing I kind of want to talk about is I've not heard the first record. I tried to find it. It was almost impossible for me to dig around and trying to find. So I wanted to see what the major difference is and why 16 years between this record and that.
That's a great question. Well, I mean, the first record, I mean, you can find it. It's there. It's on Spotify. I mean, it's on Apple Music. It's on. There's a link to get it on Bandcamp.
Okay.
You know, it's out there. Actually, to be honest, Clint, this is a funny one. You can go to a CD store, a record store, and actually buy this thing.
Nice.
It's actually in stores. It was distributed by, Sony Red, because it was
Yeah.
released with Steve Austin on his label.
I saw that.
Records.
Yeah.
Once in a while, I do some traveling. Tom does some traveling as well. One of the things I love to do is actually, find a record store and look through the D's. Yeah.
Yeah.
And see if it's there or not. Yeah.
It's there. I've seen this thing for $5.99. I've seen it for $7.99.
Sometimes it's right after Devil Driver.
Yes.
Nice.
You find alphabetically, you find Diesel Theory. A friend of mine found it in Moscow, Idaho. So
Oh,
Wow.
nice.
it's out there.
There's a Moscow, Idaho.
There is indeed.
So it's out there, bro. I mean, the time span between like the two records are simply just life. I mean, it's just life. Like we went down, I should say up into Clinton, Massachusetts, back in, what year was it, Tom?
04?
It was 95.
05?
It was 04, right? And
Long time.
we hung out with Steve Austin. This is when we met him for the first time, and we went up to his studio and recorded it. And at the time, we were doing something a little different. It was just Tom and I. We had a drum machine, and Steve literally, took the left and right out and plugged it into his massive board. We rolled these drums in, and Tom and I just rocked out. And and the thing, just organically grew into something that was really special. And then life just sort of took a hold, right?
Yeah.
Life just kind of took a hold. And Tom and I kept playing. We went through, we played with two different drummers.
Yeah.
It didn't work
I
out.
mean, we're both, so life gets in the way. We're both, professional guys. We have careers and families, and, music was always a passion and something that we did, but it just, time flies, man.
Time flies, and we wrote a bunch of stuff. We played with some other musicians, and Tom and I just ended up back together.
Yeah.
And, just kind of cutting these tracks. And so the second record, Hidden from the Sun, the one that you fell across last week from Against PR.
Yeah.
It's a culmination of those years, to be honest. And I mean, it was recorded recently, but the themes of the songs, the lyrical content, the textures and the melodies, the structuring of the songs are very different from the first record. Very different. And we had time. We were under no pressure. We did the recording in our own studio, which was very new for us. We'd spent years in multiple bands recording in different studios. And on this one, we actually recorded our tracks, but we did not mix and master them. So we took those tracks and we went up again and worked with Steve Austin again. And Steve kind of took these tracks and he did his magic, his amazing gear, and he put them together for us. And we didn't alter the tracks, but he did do some mixing magic, right? So that gap, was it really 16 years?
Yeah. That's what it says. It says the record came out in 2005, the first one.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I feel like I should have been prepared to know that gap.
No, it's all good, man. It's all good.
Wow.
So no, very cool. So from one fellow Jersey boy to another. I was born and raised in Jersey, so
Where?
Really?
Where?
yeah. So I was born in Lakewood, New Jersey.
Okay.
My dad was a New Jersey State Trooper for 21 years.
Wow.
And then I grew up in North Jersey, up in Passaic County, so up in like the Ringwood, Wanacue area. That's where I grew up. So I, being a musician for 35 years myself, I played Hoboken, Weehawken, New York City, the whole scene too, man. Played Maxwell's, probably 1,500 times in the span of my life. So no, I know that.
Hard
Yeah,
at Maxwell's.
yeah. So
Wow. Probably crossed paths, dude.
we absolutely did, because from 94 to 2005, I was playing the entire circuit there. So, yeah, doing metal and doing grunge and heavy rock and stuff like that. So yeah, absolutely. I'm sure we did at one point in time.
Very,
Uh,
very cool.
yeah. So I kind of want to talk about this record because it makes me feel young again, and I mean this in the best way possible. I'm 48 years old, so like I said, yeah, I felt we were kindred spirits in that kind of vibe. Yeah. So it reminds me of all the great late 80s and 90s kind of heavy bands. And that's why I kind of like this. So I'm going to throw a couple of band names out there, not the ones that everybody throws out to you. Like, yeah, I mean, I hear the Gorgiras and I hear that element in your music, but that's not why I like the band. I like the band for three very simple reasons. It reminds me of old school Prong. It reminds me of Killing Joke, and it reminds me of like early strapping young lads. If you throw those three bands together, that's what I feel. Do any of those bands hold a kinship to you guys?
Well, I could talk for the next probably 13 hours about Prong. When I heard Beg to Differ for the first time, it destroyed me, because
Right.
Prong was the first band. They were probably 25 years ahead of their time. I've met Tommy Victor on several occasions. I've told him how awesome he is to his face. His guitar playing is the reason I play guitar. I rip him off constantly. Every riff
I
that I've
wonder
ever
why
written.
I hear it then.
Yeah, so I mean, like the squeals, the open notes. I mean, he's just an absolute genius. Growing up listening to metal, it was always, the big four and all the big bands. And then I saw Prong, and it was three dudes, and they were making this incredible, brutal heaviness. And the first time I saw Prong, I was like, that's metal. That's what I want. And they redefined what a band could be. You don't have to have 5 dudes or 6 dudes. I mean, it was 3 guys, and it was amazing. And they've, his songwriting, his guitar playing, the fact that you say Prong is just, I mean, the interview is over as far as I'm concerned, because I've got nothing else to talk about, because all I've done for the last, I don't know, 25 years is rip off Tommy Victor. So thank you, Tommy. That's all I have to say. Good night, everybody. So Prong is one of the biggest influences on my guitar playing, and yes, absolutely, man.
Well, I mean, listen, those 3 bands, I mean, we got to dig in a little bit on this. Tommy is an amazing dude. First of all, Tommy's phone number is in my phone, because Thom and I actually ended up with him late one night at a bar in New York City, and he actually came out with a Diesel Theory shirt on. And
I lost that picture, but there is a picture of Tommy Victor wearing a Diesel Theory shirt, and it's awesome.
He's a great dude.
It's the crowning achievement of my musical career, because he is the man. He's the man.
What was really cool?
He's the wrist beast.
What was really cool is how cool he was too, and checking out Diesel Theory, and then he actually invited me, and we actually went to see him play with Danzig, which was really cool.
Yeah.
And on our first record, there is the cover, the Rude Awakening cover of Prong. So the almighty Prong.
We are shameless.
Yeah. We don't try to hide it. Yeah.
We are shameless, and you mentioned Killing Joke, so I mean. Honestly,
that's crazy.
Killing Joke to me is another one of those bands, huge influence on me. The layers and textures in that band, and when Paul Raven went into that band, I mean, there's a connection between Killing Joke and Prong too,
That's
right?
well, that's what I was just gonna say is I knew Paul Raven before he died. Like he was
Wow.
actually like we hung out, talked. We actually at one point in time talked about putting a project together after Prong,
He's
and
a
then
cool
he passed.
dude.
And then he passed. So no, the kinship is there with us more than you know, because our very first show, I was in a band called Soulweed, which was kind of like a noisy kind of punky garage band, and we were a house band at CBGB's. We played
Oh,
every other Wednesday for
wow.
like 5 years straight.
Wow.
And our very first show was with Prong. They played on a Wednesday night because what they were doing was literally working on Beg to Differ.
Oh my
They were
God.
they were working on it.
Yeah.
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 So the record to become, because I had literally just seen them maybe a year before, because Force Fed blew my mind. Like,
Yes.
and they, and they were working on it, and we just happened to be playing that night, and I was like, holy shit, guys, that's Prong. And
Yeah.
nobody else in my band knew who the hell it was. And I was like, wait till you see this band, they're gonna blow you away. And then they
Yeah.
started playing the new songs, and I was like, holy shit, they're even better. Like, I
Yeah.
can't believe this band just got better. But you guys continue. I just wanted to tell you like that
Yeah.
little side story.
That's fantastic. Actually, if you watch the footage from Diesel Theory playing, we played the last set of gigs at CBGB before they shut the place down. There's a moment, in that recording where I think Thom shouts out, about Tommy Victor was the sound guy at CBGB.
Nice, yeah.
Right. Yeah. He
And
worked there.
he
Yeah.
actually worked there. He
Yeah.
stood behind that board, right? It's like sacred ground. Right?
It really is. Yeah. I mean, and his riffs are just better and better, and they're iconic. And like I said, it had such an impact on me as a young metalhead. When Prong came out, it was just like, I never stopped being, a champion of Prong, because they're just amazing.
Let's dig in on the fact that you called these three bands out, because so Prong, we're talking about,
Yeah.
Prong, Tommy and his style, and that, the sort of the crossover, and what happened with Killing Joke. But you also mentioned Strapping Young Lad. So there's an interesting thing,
Ridiculous.
which I don't know if Tom's
Oh, man.
going to tune into this yet or not, but I'm going to actually talk about his guitar playing for a couple minutes, because there's a common thread between, Tommy Victor, what happened in Killing Joke, and with Devin Townsend.
Yeah.
Strapping Young Lad. Like, Devin Townsend is an amazing guitar player. And one of the reasons why he's amazing, I mean, he's doing the chunky, fast stuff, and he gets a drummer. Gene Hoglan was in the band, but
Yeah.
his solo stuff's amazing too. But he actually understands, in addition to just playing fast, he understands how to play slow.
Mhm.
Right. And the nines that he does in his playing, and the things that he's dealing with rhythmic, polyrhythms in his guitar playing, this guy right here, I mean, there's a connection. Like, Tommy Victor has an ear for it. Like, it transcends into the work that happened in Killing Joke. But Strapping Young Lad, that's a band that ended too early.
Right.
Now, well, maybe some people would say it wasn't too early because Devin Townsend's doing his amazing solo stuff. I mean, that solo stuff, like, I got to be in a mood. I got to have time. Right. I'm not just flipping through iTunes listening to Devin
No,
Townsend.
not at all. You don't pick one song. Yeah, you don't pick a song and listen to Devin Townsend. You listen to a Devin Townsend album. You're absolutely right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Clint, we on Hidden from the Sun, like, maybe we should have done a single first. I don't know. But it's an entire record, and it's a record for a reason. It's an album. The song is contiguous, and like, you need to like spend some time with it.
Yeah.
Like, listen to the guitar. It's amazing stuff, and the layering with the keyboards. So I've never had a person, sort of tie together Prong and Devin Townsend. So you're a first for doing that one, bro.
This is 40 years of musicianship, man. I hear it. Okay. That's all I gotta say. So that's really interesting that you just did that, because I kind of wanted to talk about some of the music as well, because the coolest thing I like about this record, the guitars are great, don't get me wrong, but that's not what gets me going. It is the amazing interplay between the synths and the bass, okay? In a way that I've never really, well, I have, but it was when I was in New York in the 80s, 90s, where people weren't afraid to mix hardcore elements with industrial elements, with like, I almost want to say groove rock. All right, and it's not a dirty word. Like people think this, like but no, boy, it bothers me, like because Pantera made it a dirty word. So
Right.
like it's not. All it means is you can skillfully interlock a rhythm together with two different instruments and make a really cool, interesting where your body wants to move. That's all that means. Like, but specifically, there's two songs that I really want to talk about on your record that really kind of blew me away, and this is the reason why I want to have had this interview. So the
Sure.
first one is My Role. All right, and the reason why because you do something that a lot of bands are afraid to do. You mixed in what I would call death rock. All right, and I don't know if you know what I mean by that, but Killing Joke to me is very much a death rock band, and what that means is they mixed industrial goth and metal music all together into something. So you mixed that death rock style, industrial music, and this prog element. And the greatest thing about the thing on the My Role track that I like is it's so damn proggy. It at a certain point in time doesn't become proggy. Like you actually unprog yourself as you guys start making the song.
Never heard
Uh,
that before.
all right, and I think you know what I mean by that. But it starts off with this really kind of industrial proggy feel,
Yeah.
and then it kind of becomes this death rock kind of just heavy rock song. And I kind of wanted to ask, like, how did that song come to be? Because it's a really interesting layer of elements. It's almost everything you do all at once.
That's an old song, and that song for a very long time in our catalog just had the number 9 attached to it because we couldn't figure out what to do with it. I like to play, back to my hero Tommy Victor. I play shapes and things on the guitar that are just not normal. So there's a lot of weird places that your hand ends up and open notes and stuff. So it's a very strange riff, and this was the final culmination of that song, and it's it always had that very that center vocal point, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's an old one, man. It's an
mean,
old song that I've been tooling around with on acoustic guitar, and just it's an old riff, and it's a good one, and it comes from my 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 inability to write songs. you know,
it's an interesting one to latch onto because it was actually an instrumental for
Yeah.
quite a long
Oh
time.
wow.
And there's been, if you dig back through the catalog, and there's even some live recordings out there where people, snapped us, and put it up on YouTube. I mean, you hear this song without the vocals and the texture, and without the keyboards, Clint, that you're latching onto, that I think actually do make it this interesting mix between prog and rock.
Mm-hmm.
There's a very simple riff that presents itself in the middle of the song, but the beginning and the end are completely different, right? So the keyboards, I think, in that song, wow, we thought, I mean, we remember when we did the original beginning thing,
Yeah.
we just pushed it into the front of the
Yeah,
song.
I mean, my first instrument was piano, so we decided to incorporate keyboards, and say like, hey, I know how to play piano. Maybe I should, get a keyboard.
It was one of the most difficult bass lines for me to write, to be
Gotcha.
honest with you, was to figure out, where to do something on the bass that was, in the mix, and not above the guitar or below the guitar, and just support the guitar. But then where do I come out and push the notes above?
Yeah.
Right. And that's that middle part.
Right. And that's
all
one of the things
bass.
about working with a bass player like that. He's not just, it's not, I sit in a studio and play a guitar riff and he plays what I play. A lot of times my guitar tracks are recorded, and because of technology, he's able to sit with them for a long time, and he doesn't know what I'm playing. So he's playing a lot of stuff by ear. And sometimes the bass just comes out of this, it's a whole different approach to songwriting where the bass just grows and explodes out of this, just this new way of looking at it, playing it by ear and by feel, as opposed to saying, oh, he's playing this and then that. So it's really, I mean, that's where a lot of the bass lines come from. I mean, they're just, you know,
Nice.
yeah.
Actually, I mean, very intentionally. The first record, we would track the bass with the guitar.
Right. We wrote it together, and now it's like you're spending time alone with these scratch guitar tracks, listening to what I'm doing, and you're playing by ear and writing these bass lines that a lot of times have nothing to do with the song or had nothing to do with what I thought the song was going to be, and then it's all different. And
It changes it.
It's really fantastic, you know, and that's
No,
what was different about this record.
I agree very much. That's kind of the reason why that song draws me.
Yeah.
The other song that I really love is probably the other track that most people find very un-Diesel Theory, all right? And it's Breathing Underwater. And and the reason why I like that song is, so take this with the utmost respect, all right? Is you popify brutal music on that song. And I love that you give it a upbeat feeling. It's so hard sometimes to be able to make aggressive music have that emotional upbeat kind of vibe. And that song very, very much does that for me. And when I hear that, Prong was another band that did that for me, where I would hear hardcore riffs, but let's be honest, Tommy Victor was probably the greatest pop punk guitarist in the world, because he like had these pop punk riffs that he made into hardcore songs because they were so catchy that you would literally just, they wouldn't leave your head.
Yeah.
And that's what this Breathing Underwater song does to me. Like, I was walking around the other day humming something, and it was that goddamn song.
That's awesome. Well, that's great. I mean, so
I almost want to say I'm sorry, but I don't.
No, it's
Don't ever be sorry for that.
that song was, you know, a lot of that song. I mean, I could talk about this song forever. It was inspired by a conversation I had with an actual inmate at a maximum security prison in New York State. So I'm a Catholic deacon. So I do a prison ministry, and that's how we wrote that song. And we've actually got a video coming out shortly for that song, and it's a really incredible song. It's absolutely brutal.
We chose that song as our first single.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be the single off the record. It was, you know, it's an exact conversation that I had with someone who's spending a lot of time in a very terrible place, and it was, you know, again, the music born out of these riffs where I'm not constrained by this total knowledge of the guitar. So there's a lot of open strings and things that, you know, don't make a lot of sense to people. So my plan is that people listen to that riff and they're like, what the hell is that? Because even now when I listen back to it, I'm like, what the hell am I playing there? You know, but it's a great song. It's and it's concise, right? It's so short. It's sort of like, you know,
well, it's not a verse chorus.
Right. So
no.
You know, you know, one of the greatest metal songs ever written was Maplethorpe Gray by Pig Destroyer, and it happens, and then it's over, and you're like, oh my God, that's the greatest thing I've ever heard. And so, you know, it's not, so Breathing Underwater is not a very long song. It's pretty short, but it's unbelievably powerful. And it just, you know, we saw the first pass at the video a few days ago, and it's unbelievable.
It's a good video.
It's really incredible.
Yeah, we got Scott Rudd, you know, working on a video for this for us, who's done videos for a lot of big bands. And the cool thing about what's happening, you know, in terms of releasing this song, is the song is a bit of a journey, even though it's a short journey. But the video that's coming is actually a result of the song, so it's not the reverse, right? Which is really cool. Now, I would say that we challenged ourselves on this song. So I really love your comments because, you know, it's not a typical Diesel Theory song.
Right. I mean, it starts off with like acoustic piano. I mean, it's real.
Yeah, we started.
Sound, so.
I remember in the studio when, you know, you were doing the piano thing and a bass thing happened, and we're like, we're not Pink Floyd. We shouldn't be doing this.
Right, and then you did that one thing, and I'm like, I think you just made this song fucking sadder.
I did
Like,
make it sad.
it was a really
Yeah.
sad song to begin with, and
Yeah.
then he did that opening thing, and I was like, Jesus, it just
Yeah.
got sadder.
Yeah.
So it's a really,
Yeah.
it's absolutely brutal.
Listen, dude, early in this release, we're a week into it. The fact that you're digging on, My Role and, Breathing Underwater, I think we're latched.
Powerhouses.
Okay.
I think we're firing together. There's some other nuggets on this one, but I'm really happy to talk about Breathing Underwater. The vocals that this guy did, I mean, I did a small section, but his vocals on this song,
Yeah.
I listened to it in headphones. I heard it in my car the other day, which is really weird. And he's just stretching, way beyond where he was on the first record, right? And hopefully the fans that hear that and knew the first record hear the difference, because, man, you did a good job on those vocals. Like, amazing. Just amazing.
No, and I agree. And I agree. There are other nuggets on the record that I really love, and I love when you become just this hard driving, aggressive band. But I love that you guys can mix both sides of it.
Yeah.
And the funniest thing is, I understand Breathing Underwater is a sad song, but musically, it is not sad at all. It is so diverse.
Yeah. Yeah. That solo, that he played, I mean, it genuinely is. The content is sad, but you're right, Clint. Like, it's actually uplifting, right? You come out of that song and you feel better than when you got into it.
Yeah.
Which was an intent. That was intentional. Like, you come into this thing, it's dark, it's sad, but when you come out of it, there's a couple tunes like that. My Role is the same way.
Yeah, it is.
Think about My Role. There's this tune that's going on. There's this proggy stuff. There's this heavy chunk. But the backbeat on the ending of that song, that's uplifting, right? That's a crescendo coming up, right? Out of a really dark place, right?
I agree with you wholeheartedly. You kind of took my thunder, because I was going to ask if there was going to be a video for any track whatsoever.
Oh, yeah.
And no,
it.
so that's awesome, because that's my favorite song on the record. So you just made my day. You made my day knowing that.
It's incredible. Yeah. And so the initial sound effects for the song, always the vision was this idea of this, confinement of this prison. So there's these sound effects in the beginning of the video with the footsteps and the chains and things like that.
Door slamming.
Right. And that was all put on there. Andy put all those on there. He's a whiz at that kind of stuff. I'm sort of a Neanderthal when it comes to that, riffs and drum beats, but he put all that cool stuff on there. And then, the video came together, and we saw the first pass of it, and it's
it looks good.
It looks ridiculous.
Yeah,
so
cool.
We're really excited about it, to get it out there and people to see it, and it's really, it is kind of sad, but it's awesome.
Well, I think we latched on to the Diesel Theory as a whole. Listen, we write songs that are dark. There's no doubt. It's just what we do. Even if the two of us pulled out our acoustic guitars right now and jammed, somehow, in some way, shape, or form, things tend to be dark. The textures are dark. But I don't know, man. Like, I think about like death metal. I think about hard rock. I think about just any type of like heavy music. I don't think we fit a stereotype, right? No. I think the tunes, they're dark, but they're not death metal songs, and they're not thrash metal songs, and they're not hard rock songs. We're not singing about like, partying. We're singing about the things that we've been through, and the things that we know people have been through, like people we know, right? And the past 16 months, bro, have been really weird.
Yeah.
Right? And I think there's a lot to relate to, in the lyrics, and we're not abstract, right? You probably, figured that out if you listen to the lyrics. There's nothing abstract about what we're saying at all. It's right there.
Cool. Yeah, no, absolutely. I fully agree. So I kind of want to ask a little bit about, this is a self-released record, right? I just want to make sure that I'm not mistaken by that. Okay. Because, people tag label names on things, and I never really know if it's like somebody backing it or not.
Sure.
But
sure.
So why do it yourself? You have this, you have the Steve Austin connection, you have other connections. I can see that you guys, you've been in the music scene for a long time too, just like myself. Uh, I, I for years did stuff on my own as well too, but I'm back to working with certain select labels just because they're friends. It's not even so much a label anymore. It's just somebody that I know I can trust. Why do this one on your own? Why take this endeavor and go all on your own this time?
It's a great question. And it is self-released. It is released on Full Scale Fire, which is a label that Thom and I actually run. It's really just for us. Um, listen, that 16-year gap was real. The first release was actually done on a label with Steve. It was Supernova Records.
Yep.
It had distribution with Sony. The playing field got leveled over the past couple of years, right? And we own all of our music, and we decided that this one we would do on our own, just this one, right? And get our name, back out there, get the music back out there, and float our music, around and see if anybody was interested. Would it help to have major label or a mid-label, smaller label? Yeah, it would help, Clint. It would really help, because this album is actually getting some attention, and we're getting a lot of streams. And I'm very hopeful that Hidden from the Sun, released via Full Scale Fire, will drum up some attention for some other labels that might be interested in working with us.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a different world than it was back when we did our first record. I mean, I remember going to Virgin Megastore in Times Square and seeing the Diesel Theory CD in that thing where you had to pull back the names, and it was always, it was right after Devil Driver most of the time, and it was awesome, to see it there, but it's a different world now, but our deal with Supernova Records put our physical CD in stores, and it was a dream come true. I mean, there's a lot of musicians nowadays that can't say that. I mean, we were in Virgin and Barnes and Noble and FYE. I mean, when you went to those physical stores in 2004, 2005, our record was there.
Yeah.
And it was awesome.
And it still is.
And it really is.
The ones that are remaining.
Right, so in the used bin somewhere, but it was awesome back then. I mean, and that was a big achievement, and it was fantastic. But the music business has changed now, so, but we just want to get it out there because it's an amazing album, and it's a long time of blood, sweat, and tears put into it, and it's as real as we can make it.
A little bit of impatience too, to be honest with you. Because we figured out how to do it, and we had the means to do it. We weren't waiting, right? We weren't waiting. So we wanted to get it out there. June 18th was not soon enough for us.
No, cool. So this is a question to you guys, and I really kind of just want to know your thought process on this. So I'm going to say what I hear and feel, but I want to know what you hear and feel on this. So sure. When I've listened to this record probably a dozen times, no lie. And the reason why is I really like to kind of immerse myself and then kind of dig pieces of a record out until I realize why I really like something. I'm not one of those guys, again, old man, we're older guys. We like albums. We don't like single songs. Yeah. So, but like I said, the reason why I like this is because you diverged between two worlds for me. And I want to talk about these two worlds. So you diverge against the old school metal vibe that like my 16-year-old self will never lose. Okay. Like, the denim jacket, the patches, just like being that. And then again, this may upset you, may make you happy. I don't know, but you go into this goth punk kind of world too, where, I don't think the two worlds really combined often, but on this record they do. Which one do you feel more at home? Do you feel more at home on the metal side, or do you feel more at home on the? So I almost say the Headbangers Ball versus the 120 Minutes. Like that's almost the world. Like because remember, remember, like I was the guy that watched both, but I was the weirdo that watched both. Okay, most people didn't.
Yeah, that's the absolute problem because, I was 12 years old when the Big Four released the Big Four albums, right? Peace Sells and Master of Puppets and
Yeah.
Among the Living and Rain and Blood. I was 12 years old, so that had a huge impact on me. But then I also liked Ministry,
Yeah.
and so it was a complete mess. And then the first time that I saw Godflesh play live
Oh, good
in New
Lord.
York City at the Marquee with Napalm Death. I went there to see Napalm Death, and Godflesh was on that tour, and I was like, it's two dudes on a stage with this pounding, completely destructive beat behind them. What the hell was that? And then after the show, maybe 3 days later, when I could hear again, my friend
Yeah.
was like, that was a drum machine. And I'm like, what the fuck is a drum machine and how do I get one?
Right.
And it was like 1990 something.
It's a long time ago.
And that was it. I mean, that Godflesh show was like, but it's always been that blending of the two. Like, you're a Slayer fan, you can't listen to this. And I was like, well, Ministry is really awesome, and
Yeah.
Godflesh is ridiculous. So,
Well, I mean,
crossover's always been there, like this madness.
I think we're a crossover band in
dude.
this modern era. I mean, to answer your initial question, I mean, I was the Headbangers Ball dude, and my girlfriend was a 120 Minutes person.
Gotcha.
Like, she taught me
I
stuff.
was a Headbangers Ball dude when like Slayer was on.
Well, I mean, Prong had the.
There was like 4 videos on Headbangers Ball.
There was the Prong.
So you watch 3 hours and you get Prong. Maybe you get Jerry Was a Race Car Driver. Maybe you'd get like I'm Broken or something, and then that was, so you have to record 3 hours on your VHS to get those like 3 songs. But back then it was worth it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you'd fall asleep and record it and wake up the next day and watch it, be like, the Prong video was on. And you would keep that cassette, that VHS, as like sacred, because this has that Sepultura video on it, and it has that Prong video on it. So you would put Sepultura, Prong, and you would put it aside so nobody would mess with it.
So, totally.
Yeah.
And there's also the two of us too, right? So, I mean, listen, there's a contrast between Thom and I, right? So, I mean, Thom comes in with a certain writing style, and I come in with a certain writing style, and when they come together, you get Hidden from the Sun, right?
Yeah.
So, people talk about Stephen Carpenter and Chino, right?
Yeah.
Thing that happens there. There's these pairs of people that on their own do a thing, and then together do something different.
Right.
And him and I, when we do something together, it's Hidden from the Sun.
Right.
Right.
We agree on a lot of stuff, and we disagree on a lot of stuff. So when we play stuff together, it's this culmination of these two worlds.
Yeah.
But we can sit here and talk forever about the transition from Kill 'Em All to Ride the Lightning.
I don't understand that.
We don't understand that
I don't
transition.
understand that
We
transition.
can discuss this all night, and then there's some, things that he listens to, some song things that he listens to that are just terrible. And then we get into
terrible.
And then, but when we get into the studio, we understand like
Nice.
what good songwriting is, and it's about making this song, 100% awesome. And that's where it all comes together. There's that weird tension of how I hate most of what he listens to, and I hate a lot of what he listens to.
That's a good question. That's a good question. Yeah.
No, cool.
Yeah,
So you,
it's definitely Headbangers Ball versus what is it called?
120 minutes.
I don't even know what the other one was called.
120
Headbangers
minutes.
Ball.
Yeah.
Headbangers Ball when it was good.
It was like Ricky Rackman
Right.
versus Matt Pinfield.
Right.
Right. Exactly.
I'm Team Ricky Rackman.
Oh,
When
definitely.
it was
Definitely me
when
too.
it was like,
Yeah.
you would, out of that 3 hours, you'd get like maybe 4 videos, because every now and then you get a Megadeth video in there, and it would be awesome.
No, cool. Awesome. So I'm going to give you a little story too, because you just made me want to do it. So I happened to be eating in a diner in Jersey, and Ted Parsons from Prong and Godflesh walked in. All right.
Which diner?
So it was the actual suburban diner. I don't even know if it's there anymore.
Yeah, it's on the between New Jersey and New York.
Right.
Yes, it's Route 7.
Right, Route
I know
17.
exactly
Yep.
what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah. So I was in the suburban diner
Explain.
eating dinner, hanging out, and Ted Parsons walks in, and I had known him just in passing from,
Oh,
you know,
he's a
go
genius.
going to see shows, playing with Prong a couple of times, being friends with Paul and stuff like that. So I got to sit with him and like talk to him for about 10 minutes. Because he's like, yeah, I'm not doing nothing. I'll sit down with you and have dinner, like just kind of talk. And I said, so I want to ask you, as a Godflesh fan, were you happy being in that band? Because I saw him play live with Godflesh, and it seemed like he hated every second of it. Like he was on the stage just hating it. And he made the greatest comment that I can give you right now, and it's all about drum machines, and that's why this is coming to you. He said, "No, Godflesh was so much better with a drum machine. I don't know why in hell they asked me to play."
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's because I love that Hymns record that he played
Mhm.
on. So the Godflesh tour that I saw was probably the Pure record.
Yeah.
It was 91, and it's a powerhouse. It's massive.
It's a great.
So
It's
it's
great.
interesting that he would say that, because I mean I've gotten a lot of shit over the years about playing with a drum machine, and it's not because of a lack of respect for drummers. I mean, I think it's the opposite. It's just something that I've always done,
Yeah.
and the technology that I use to write is they're all DR 660s and 770s from the 90s. This is ancient technology that still works with modern day stuff. So
Right.
I write patterns, and then they explode into what Andy does with them. But yeah,
MIDI tracks, man.
yeah, man. So
God.
that Hymns record that Ted Parsons played on with Godflesh was, of course, incredible. I love it. I listen to it all the time. But
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, man. But there's
No,
just
I
it's
do
just
too.
yeah, it's just a different feel. Like we when I saw Godflesh play at the Marquee that time, it with Napalm Death, it absolutely just blew my mind, man. I mean, it was just two dudes on stage with this pounding, crushing beat. Not saying a drummer can't do it, but I never met the dudes from Godflesh. I don't know what their thinking was, but that's just what they did.
Yeah.
And when I saw it, it was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is that? And no, that's a drum machine. So I went out, and I mean, this was the 90s before there was, smartphones and internet, and you went to Sam Ash or whatever, and you said, I
Yeah.
want to know what is a drum machine. And I bought as many as I could. I maxed out the memories instantly. And I've got like, I don't know how many I've got now. Probably a dozen with memories maxed out, because I keep writing beats.
We got like extra batteries.
Yeah, we have extra batteries and
Yeah.
stuff for them, because I mean, but it's
We're super paranoid about
yeah, but that's
losing power.
that's just how I write, man. So I mean,
I
it
get
would
it.
be that's I follow Ted on Ted Parsons on Facebook, and he's like he does like collage murals
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
and he was awesome in Prom.
That's cool.
I
man.
loved him in
It's
Prom.
cool. It's cool that you knew Paul, and it's cool that you
Yeah,
you
Ted
have
Parsons.
that connection.
If I had bumped into Ted Parsons in a diner, I don't know, I'd probably still be there talking his ear off.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just that time. It was the world. It was the mid '90s, and everybody kind of just like we all just hung out in the same places. It was kind of funny.
Yeah.
But anyway, so the next thing I kind of want to ask, and we're going to go down this road a bit to pick your brain. Is there anything you haven't done in Diesel Theory that you want to? Is there something that you haven't recorded, a style, a way, an idea, and either because you don't think it's going to work, or you're just afraid it's not going to be something that someone wants to hear?
It's a good question. Honestly, this is no BS. We really don't worry about things that people don't want to hear. We genuinely don't.
Cool.
If we did, we wouldn't have recorded the first record. And this record, Clint, we would have not made it halfway through, because we wrote it, I don't know, not thinking it would actually be, acceptable
Okay.
by folks. Are there things that we still want to do? Absolutely. Thom and I are always exploring like what's next. The Hidden from the Sun record, we actually really challenged ourselves. I mean, it's two dudes doing the drums, the keys, the bass, the guitars, the vocals, and recording it. So where do we go next? You know, I think we just get deeper on the subject matter that we're talking about, and we challenge ourselves on our instruments, right? And we take it there, right? I mean, the stuff we're working on now is just deeper and even darker.
Yeah, I don't know that there's anything we haven't done that we want to do. I mean, this record represents as much as we wanted to do vocally with the use of keyboards. I mean, on the first record, it was riffs and drum beats. You know, I mean, that's what it was, and that's what metal has always been: riffs and drum beats, right? And so now this was the record where we experimented with everything. You know, vocally. I mean, Andy does way more vocals on this record than probably equal. You know, I mean,
I didn't do any vocals on the first record.
Right, so
I
he's
did
done
some
a lot
backups.
of vocals. More keyboards. I played keyboard on just about almost every song on this record.
Yeah.
We use sampling. So this record represents everything that would have been the answer to that question, 5 years ago. Like, what do you guys want to do? We want to do all this. We did it all on this record, and we did it. And again, I mentioned before, the songwriting was so different on this. You know, instead of sitting in a studio because just time and logistics, whatever, right? It was drums and riffs and drums, and then him sitting down and really spending time. That's why the bass is such a monster on this record, because it's a lot of times got nothing to do with the guitar, which is something we strived for even back in the day with the guitar playing in 4/4 and the bass playing in 3 or vice versa.
We like the polyrhythm stuff,
and that's just really brilliant stuff. And so when he doesn't see physically what the guitar player is doing, it's frightening, but at the same time it's a massive open canvas, to sit down and know what the tuning is and know what the tempo is, and just to feel what's happening. And you would never get those bass lines if we sat in a room together and said, okay, it's this and then that.
No, we did that already.
We did that already.
We did that already.
So, and that's what the first record is. It's drum and bass and guitar. I mean, and drum, whatever. But this new record is crazy because it's just.
So I think
the bass is out there, man. It's awesome.
It's out there, and I think moving forward, Clint, to come full circle on your question, I think for, once people understand Hidden from the Sun and appreciate it, we've got a couple surprises in line.
Right? Nice.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I'll leave it at that. The video, first of all.
The video's coming.
It's going to be awesome.
But material-wise, I think we got some surprises next year.
Very, very cool. Awesome. So I guess I'm going to ask it like this. Is there anybody that you would like to collab with? Is there anybody you'd like to work with? I can just hear certain things, and there's certain people like I would just think that would work really well. And I'm just going to throw a couple of names out. I know it's ridiculous level, and they're probably never going to even come close to talking to you. But
don't say it like that. Come on.
No, because no.
Who is it?
Well, I'm going to tell you like this, because the one guy I think is a flaming ass, and he wouldn't give you the time of day because of that, not because you're not a good band. But like, I could hear someone like, and the one I'm talking about is Burton C. Bell. Like, I could really hear.
We know him. We know with him.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
C stands for.
Oh, you did.
We'd be happy. Would Burton be?
He told me in a bar.
Does he want the world to know?
It stands for Christopher.
Oh, okay. There you go.
So Burton C. Bell was singing for Ministry at the New England Metal Fest 185 years ago.
Yeah.
We were at the Irish Times pub in Worcester, Massachusetts, and he came in with Tommy Victor, my idol. Tommy was playing guitar for Ministry.
Loop Lounge.
And Burton C. Bell is a genius. Yeah. I saw him at Loop Lounge with Ascension of the Watchers.
Yeah.
And I told him to his face that he was the first vocalist to do that style where he's grindy and he's singing and makes fans wonder if it's two people or one.
Yeah.
So he was the first person to do that, and he's a fucking genius. And I told him that to his face. So yeah.
Well, that's cool. He completely shunned me when I tried to talk to him one night, and I was just like, after that, I was like, you pompous human being. I like.
I don't know,
I'm
man.
telling you,
But
I'm pouring out my soul to you.
we hung out with him on 2 days, and then we saw him in New York when Ministry played with Meshuggah at Irving Plaza,
Ah,
and he was awesome. We hung out with him at the Irish Times Pub in Worcester, Mass, and he was
Nice.
fucking awesome.
We also saw him.
I asked him, I said, "What does the C stand for?" And he looked at me and he goes, "Christopher." It was awesome. It was like teenage Tom Jack. It was like
Nice.
I had like everything I ever wanted.
But here's,
That's awesome, dude.
another weird. Here's
This
another,
demanufacture changed the game.
Yeah, I
another
agree.
weird link here, right? So Burton C. Bell, we saw him at Loop Lounge at Ascension of the Watchers. His keyboard player was the dude that was the keyboard player in Prom.
That's from Prom. Yes,
Yes,
yes. I had
yes,
no idea
yes.
who that guy was, but his
Yes,
name
he was. Yeah, yes, he was.
He had the mohawk. He had the big mohawk.
Yeah.
When I saw the Prong at the Limelight,
Yes.
yes, that was the
With
guy.
Clutch.
With Clutch. Oh my God. That was a great show. Yes.
Clutch is amazing. I don't disagree.
Yes.
But you said Meshuggah, and you won me over on that. That is
Yes.
one of my favorite bands of all time. So
We love
yeah.
We
But
love
so the
Sweden.
other yeah.
love Sweden.
So the other person that I think would do something really magical for you is not a vocalist. All right. And like I said, it's a particular guitar sound that I really love. And it's the and I know it probably doesn't fit well, but it's that bolt thrower guitar sound. And I just feel like that they give that kind of war metal kind of apocalyptic sound that you guys do in a kind of industrial electronic way, but in death metal. And I would love to hear something like that where you actually have your guitars are hard and heavy, but I'd love to hear that like just brutal kind of chainsaw tone just one time.
That's the neck pickup, man. That's like Pearl was all the neck pickup. It's all neck pickup. Oh, it's like Kai's, yeah.
I never understood.
Yeah, both rows amazing. Yeah,
Cool.
good stuff.
But
Yeah.
is there anybody you'd like to work with that you think would be a good fit to maybe on the next record or whatever that have happen?
Well, I mean, listen, I'm not sure about the future. I mean, on Hidden from the Sun, there's an instrumental on the song called Ash Borer.
Yeah.
And Steve Austin plays Ebo on that.
Yeah, which is crazy. That's the eerie sound you hear in the background.
Yeah,
That's,
That crazy song
gives you
sound,
nightmares.
Yeah.
That's Steve Austin playing Ebo.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
And he went deep on that. He listened to the song 100 times. And Tom and I sat back in the seat.
It was so awesome.
He had this Ebo going, Clint, and he just his thing, man. Like today is the day style, but like not. He did it for us, and I'm really thankful for him for doing that. And if we ever get a chance in the future to collaborate with somebody like Steve, on one of our records, we absolutely would.
Cool. Awesome. So I have a Steve Austin story as well too, and I didn't know how well you know him, so that's awesome. So he's probably never going to remember me, but someday if you talk to him, he may remember this. So I was in a band called Grizzle. And it was a two-piece band. I had a drummer, and it was me playing guitar and doing vocals, and I played through a guitar and a bass amp to have like a really monster-full sound. All right, all right. So we were in Richmond, Virginia, and we were playing a club.
Love Richmond.
Yeah. So we were, and I can't remember the name of the club. I don't remember, and I wish I could. I mean, we're talking 25 years ago now. But so we played with Today Is the Day.
Awesome.
And I didn't know we were playing with Today Is the Day that night because we were just doing random tour, and they booked us for that night because they felt that we fit together. So I got to play, like I got up on stage, I started playing, and then all of a sudden Steve just walks his ass out and starts watching, and I'm like going, no way.
Yeah.
The dude's gonna watch my set.
Yeah.
I can't screw up. Like I gotta be able to play it right because one of my idols is now watching me.
Exactly.
So I finished the set, and after the set, he comes over to me and he goes, "You have the most fucking kick-ass sound I've ever heard in my life."
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I thank you so much, man. He goes, "Do you want to play the next 4 shows with us?" And I'm like, what?
So awesome.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. And I'm like, what? He's like, yeah. Cancel your shit and go do the next 4 shows with us. he goes, we're playing DC, Philly, New York, and whatever. And I said, no, I don't want to do this. No, not at all. Like, so we literally canceled the next 6 dates of our show and just did the next 4 shows with Today Is the Day.
That's awesome.
And yeah, so like, like he was the most genuinely honest, cool person I've ever met in my life.
He really
And yeah, and no, and so I love that you work with him and he's doing stuff with you, because like genuine human beings should work with genuine human beings.
and that's the thing. He's the one person. So everyone talks shit about the music business. You know, in 2004, 2005, when he put our record out, he did everything he said he was going to do. He's like, your CD is going to be in stores.
Yeah.
And then you went, and this was, and see, kids nowadays, they don't understand this. You went back then and you went to a CD store, it was there, you know, and that's a big deal. You know, you could pull those CD cases back, and there was the Diesel Theory album, and it was, there was 4 or 5 copies of it. You know, it was awesome. It was really awesome.
It's good.
Yeah,
it's a good dude, man. That's a great story about Steve, and it really aligns with.
But that's him. That's what he does,
him,
and that's what he does, and he's so genuine, and he makes some of the most brutal music for the last 25 years.
Yeah.
But you spend time with him, and you talk to him, and he does what he says he's going to do, man.
Yeah, I got to spend 3 of the coolest days of my life with him. That's all I'll say. Yeah, that's all I'll say. But
yeah.
I just want to say thank you for doing this. I'm going to wrap this up now, because that was kind of where I wanted to be.
Awesome.
I will absolutely promote the record. I will make sure once the video's up, I will get it to you guys. I will make sure your Bandcamp links and all that stuff are there. I just want to say personally, from my heart, we are now brothers. Okay. If you ever come out to Phoenix, you got to let me know. We'll hang out. If I ever come out to the East Coast again, I will hit you guys up, and I will make sure that we hang out. All right.
You got it. Thanks, man.
No, absolutely. Andrew and Thom, again, thank you so very much for doing this. Clint from the Doorway too. It's been an absolute pleasure. And guys, you keep doing what you're doing.
Awesome. Thanks, brother.
Yeah,
thanks, man.
Peace.